Hi everyone, welcome to Lists and Range lecture. So in this lecture, we're going to cover 5 different examples of how to use them. So a list contains a sequence of values in square brackets, and each value can be a float, integer, string, or boolean. And each value in a list is called an element. So there's an important concept with lists called mutability, where elements in a list or dictionary are mutable, whereas the elements in a tuple or string are immutable. So as an example here, we have a numbers list, just to illustrate the mutability, where we have 10, 20, and 30. And all I'm doing is indexing the very first number, which is 10, and then I'm replacing it with a string of cool. And you can see the final output where we have cool, 20, and 30. And it's important to note that if you're going to change or add a new value to a list, it's important that all the data types are the same. So really, you shouldn't have a mixture of strings with integers. And if I were to change the number 10, it should really be something like another integer value, say 200. Okay, so let's take a look at our very first example. Right, so we have values of 10 all the way to 89 for our my list. And what I'm going to do is just simply my list, hit dots, and then tab, and you can see the various methods or functions from append all the way down to sort. So again, that's simply hitting tab. Okay, so I'm going to select index, and I'll do it for, let's say, the number 10, our very first number, which is unsurprisingly 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And we can check that by simply doing my list and then square brackets 0, and we get, of course, 10. Let's do that for the number 100. So we get the index of 1, and we can check that as well here, and we get 100. Okay, but you'll notice that in our my list, if I do here 100 and also here 100. So what's happening is that the index method or function is looking for the very first number, that's 100, and it's just going to spit out the index for it. It doesn't care about any of the other hundreds that are here. Okay, so let's say I do a number 1000. What's going to happen here? We get a value error. That's because 1000 is not in our list. But let's say, for example, I do counts. We simply get a 0 because there's no 1000 in our list. But if I do, let's say, 100, we get 2. If I do 10, we get 1, of course. All right, so let's take a look at the inserts. Let's just remove that. And I'm going to change this to inserts. If I hit the shift and tab, you can see here I've been insert, so it's index and object are the parameters. So I'm going to add in, I'll put in 0 here, and let's say we have cats. And then I'll do my list. So you can see here that we've added in cats at the beginning of our list. And let's say I add in here 2, and we'll do dog. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2. Okay, great. So you can see that we have 0, 1, and 2. Okay, I'm going to remove that. And the way to do that is simply by indexing. So this is mutability. So I'm going to change this to, let's say, 10. I'll do my list. Okay, and then I'll do the same for the dog, but I'm going to change this to, let's say, 200. Okay, great. So let's move on to our second example. So this one is sort and reverse. So just refresh that. So on my list with the 200. So what I like to do is have the list arranged in a way where we have the lowest to the highest values. So we can do that by mylist.sort. And note, if I just run it like that, we don't get any output, so I have to do mylist like so, and you can see that I have minus 50 all the way to our new value that we added of 200. Okay, so let's say I also want to reverse this. So what I can do is I'll do 2 and then my list 2, and I'd like to do dot reverse my list 2, and you can see now I have the highest value first and the lowest value at the very end of our list. Alright, so let's take a look at our third example. So this one here, append, extend, nested, and the asterisk. You're going to be using append probably the most when you use a list, particularly when it comes to for loops. Alright, so we have here these two lists, and what I'd like to do is just simply a.append. I'm going to append a value here. So I can do, let's say, let's do 300, and if I do A, you can see I have 300 there. And I can do another one, but of course it's just going to be the same because it's still on the same cell. So what I'll do is just make those 2 cells. Okay, I'm going to put in, let's say, 400, like so. Alright, so the thing about the append and extend that's different here is if I were to do a list, and I'll do, let's say, 1, 2, 3. Here, like this, you can see I have a nested list, and we don't really want that. We want to avoid that. So I'm going to do this instead. So instead of this, if we just do extend, now you can see that we have them like this instead. So we don't have to worry about a nested list. Okay, and the other thing also that we can do is, let's say we go and just comment this out. And I can have here, let's say, 1, 2, 3. But then I put in A, like this, and we have, again, a nested list. But we don't want that. The way to resolve that is simply doing the asterisk here. And now you can see they're all in one list. And same with the B as well. I could do, let's just do 1000, and then I can do here as well. And I could put some numbers after it as well. I'll just put in the same data type, excuse me. And so on. Okay, great. So let's move on to the fourth example, which is the remove, pop, and clear. So this is essentially deleting data. So let's take a look at my list again. And let's say I want to remove the 100. So I'll do 100, my list, and it removes a 100 here. Let's say I want to remove 2, and now you can see 2 is gone. Alternatively, let's say I just want to remove the very last value. In this case, it's -50. I can simply do pop without using any particular number. So I'm not specifying any location. And it will simply get rid of the last value. If I do it again, it will get rid of the -10. And lastly, let's say I want to do a clear. So I'm not going to do it with my list. I'll do it with A. And I can simply do .clear and then A. And now we get an empty list. Okay, so let's move on to our fifth and final example. So this one here is quite important. It's very fundamental, really, particularly when it comes to for loops. So we'll just do a range. And if I do Shift and Tab, you can see we have here the range of start, stop, and step. So we'll start off with just 10. And we just have 0 to 10. Now if I do list, convert this to a list, it will give us 0 to 9, as you can see here. And note that it doesn't include the very last value, in this case 10. It skips that off or slices it off. If I want to have 10, I do 11. But note that we don't have 11 here now. Okay, so let's say I want to do a step size. What I can do is 0, and then we'll do 20, and then I'll do 2. So it's going up by 2 each time, starting with 0, as you can see here. If I want to have 20 in there, I just do 22. And I can also do negative numbers, so I could start with, let's say, we'll do minus 10, and I'll do 10 here, as you can see. And I can put in a 12 just to make it even on both sides, like so. Alright, and that pretty much sums it up for my lecture on list and range. I hope it's been insightful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thanks.